Good morning, everyone. The House Environmental Committee meeting will now be called to order. Mary, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag
And justice for all. Okay. Evan, would you take roll?
Vitale,
Present.
Brown,
Designation.
Fleming,
Designation.
Hohenstein,
Designation.
Isaacson,
here.
Kazim,
Designation.
Mazzacco, Otten, Pielli,
Designation.
Salisbury,
Designation.
Steele,
Designation.
Tiburcio,
Designation.
Takak,
Designation.
Webster,
Designation.
Raider,
Here.
Bashline,
Designation.
Day,
Designation.
Flick, James, Kephart, Mahaffey, Pugh,
Designation.
Stender,
Designation.
Twardzik,
I'm here.
Wentling,
Here.
Zimmerman.
Very good. Before we begin, Chair Rader, do you have any opening thoughts or remarks?
I'll save mine for the bill. Thank you.
Okay, very good. We have one bill before us today, House Bill 2178, the Environmental Cleanup and Responsibility Act, and the chair now calls up this bill. Evan, would you give a brief summary of the bill?
House Bill 2178 establishes additional requirements and liability for hazardous spill cleanup.
Okay, so the question is, shall the committee report House Bill 2178 out of committee into the House floor? Just by way of background, this is a bill by Perry Warren, Rep. Perry Warren, whose district includes East Makefield Township, and his district was unfortunately the victim of a spill or a leakage of a petroleum pipeline. The cleanup of this spill lasted way too long. So this bill was introduced both in the House by Rep. Warren and in the Senate by Senator Senasterio to add more immediacy to the cleanup process. It introduces the concept of strict liability for a cleanup, and I asked Rep. Warren to tell me a little bit more about that. And he used the example of a situation where there's leakage from a petroleum pipeline, but the company pipeline owner is saying, well, it did leak, but the people we bought the pipeline from or the people who maintain the pipeline, they're really at fault, not us. So one of the purposes of the bill is sort of to eliminate that finger pointing, require immediate response to spills such as this. It also imposes some responsibilities on the Department of Protection in cases where if a spill or discharge is not immediately responded to, they can themselves go in using monies from the Hazardous Cleanup Fund, and those who failed to meet their duties would be responsible for up to treble damages. The bill also has some reporting requirements of the public at all times knows the status of the cleanup. So with regard to this bill, is there any discussion? Chair Rader.
Well, I understand the purpose of the bill. I do have some concerns. So looking at the bill itself, under definitions, a substance designated as hazardous by regulation promulgated by the department, that could expand what is hazardous or was not hazardous by quite a bit. An immediate environmental concern, condition resulting may present substantial threat to human health, safety, or the environment. That also could expand it quite a bit. And responsible person, well, you're never going to get a person saying, yeah, that was me, I did it. So when you want immediate action and you want somebody responsible, I don't think you're going to get that. You're going to have to go to court for that. So that kind of defeats the purpose of the bill also. I don't know anybody who's going to take responsibility immediately for something that could cost them millions of dollars. So, and also if you have a smaller spill, it's hard to find a responsible person because you don't know, there could be 10% of this person, 40% of that person, 60% of another person. So it's going to take a while to find that responsible person and actually make them responsible. So I don't think that, the purpose of the bill's immediate action, I don't think that's going to happen under this. And then I was reading the Democratic bill analysis because I read everything that you give me, Chairman. And in the bill analysis, the Hazardous Site Cleanup Fund it says right in here, provides DEP with enforcement authority to compel responsible persons to conduct cleanup actions or repay public funds spent on a DEP-funded cleanup action. So you can already do that. And it allows fund expenditures for emergency responses, which is what they're talking about, including response to spills and other releases and cleanup. So it's already there under the Hazardous Sites Cleanup Act. Whether we enforce it and do it properly, that's another question. But the ability to do it from DEP is already there. And another part of the bill, it's consistent with Environmental Rights Amendment, and that's problematic because it states something about pure water in there. Well, you might not have pure water to begin with, so are we going to require different people to actually upgrade what water and environmental concerns we already have and take care of issues that already have been there? So I think that's a concern. And DEP right here also says Hazardous Sites Cleanup Fund can pay for costs of cleanup, and that's really going to greatly expand the costs of cleanup and expand the money we need in the fund, but there's no mechanism in this bill or any bill to put extra money into our cleanup fund to pay for all these new sites that we're going to have. So I have a concern about that, and DEP is going to have to decide what site would be most important in priorities, what site would get funded, what wouldn't. I hate to say this, I hate to take the rights of DEP to decide where the priority is with the limited funds that they have, which they have to do right now. And if you pass this, they would have to clean everything up, which would almost be impossible. So for those reasons, I'm against the bill.
Okay, Rep. Lee James.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm glad Jack left one for me. I just want to make a comment, and it really comes right out of the Democrat Committee bill analysis. The Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, which was passed in 1976, gives, and I quote, cradle to grave, unquote, coverage for the EPA to enforce cleanup of anybody who's at fault. Ergo, should we pass this bill, we will be adding another layer of government onto, there's at least probably 4 Pennsylvania bills, at least 2 EPA bills. In short, we're not doing anything different than we don't already have the capacity to do. And I think it's a shame to spend the extra taxpayer money. So I'm a no too.
Well, I might just say, as I read this bill, I mean, the key thrust is the word immediacy. And I think that while there is general cleanup duty and general authority from DEP, it's the provisions of this bill that require prompt cleanup action, avoiding finger pointing, the threat of treble damages, and first and foremost, what we want to do is keep the public safe. We don't want a situation like we've had in East Makefield, where you have many homes on public water supplies who just had to live with leakage without action being taken. So I think prime concern is protecting the public, and the thrust of the bill is, I think, an effort to up the time frame. Rep. Otten?
Thank you, Chairman. And just to echo that, my district is in the intersection of the largest number of pipelines across the state of Pennsylvania. Chester County is the intersection for most of the pipelines that are coming from northeastern PA, northern Pennsylvania, western Pennsylvania to Marcus Hook. And so I have a lot of experience with pipelines, pipeline failures, pipeline construction, through our highly densely populated residential communities. In some cases, these pipelines sit 10 to 15 feet from people's homes where their children sleep. We have highly volatile natural gas liquids pipelines that are upwards of 20 feet in 20-inch diameter, and multiple pipelines on top of each other, within 50 feet of my back door, where I have a family, young children, animals, and a community of neighbors, over 500 households, all that are very closely in proximity to me and those pipelines. If we don't do something here, we are failing in our role as government, and we are continuing the situation of pitting regular citizens up against multi-billion-dollar corporations. I can't tell you how many constituents of mine I have had to navigate with the Attorney General for damages that have been done to their property just through the Mariner East pipeline construction, that still, 5 years after that pipeline is in the ground and the grass is grown over, still do not have remediation or restoration to the damages that have been done. We've had properties that have been condemned because septic systems have been destroyed. We have neighbors who have had wells that have been destroyed, that they have had to put out $60,000 to drill new wells for their homes, that are still begging the Attorney General's office to uphold the agreement that was made to make good on their property damages, that still these multi-billion-dollar corporations are fighting them, and as the chairman pointed out, forcing them to prove a negative. They're forcing them to prove conditions that existed well before this ever came to pass, and they don't have that information because there was a promise that it would never happen, and they had no reason to have a baseline piece of information to restore their property to its condition prior to the damages that were done. And so we are derelict in our duty as government. This is when government needs to step in. This is when we need layers of government to protect the public health and safety and to protect the private property rights of the people who give these pipeline companies the privilege of operating within their property that they own. And these companies are being given eminent domain rights to go through residential communities within feet of people's homes where they sleep and live and raise their families, through schoolyards, through senior living communities, and they have no responsibilities to protect the public unless we force them to do that. We should not be pitting private citizens against multi-billion-dollar corporations just to restore the damages that these companies are creating in their homes, in their properties, and in their communities, and for the public health and safety.
Thank you. Rep. Gephardt?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And, you know, I can appreciate some of the comments made here. Obviously, I don't know too many people that want to pollute anybody's water or homes or whatever. And I mean, I can understand that. As Representative James mentioned, there is federal law on this. For instance, CERCLA is one of the major federal environmental laws that makes people responsible in many ways. But I have quite a few issues with this bill, but the one I want to point out is in Section B of Section 603 is the strict liability and severable liable. What that means is, for people that don't know, that might be listening, is if you're strictly liable, is regardless of your fault, you're liable. You didn't have to intend to do this. You didn't have to be negligent. You just did it. You're at fault. You're liable. And additionally, when you're joint and severally liable, what that means is you could be 10% liable for what happened and someone else could be 90%, but they can recover 100% of the damages against you. Even though you're only 10% liable, or 15%, or 20%, or whatever, you could be responsible for 100% of the damages. So if it's a $10 million claim, and you were only, 10% liable, instead of 100 grand, you're going to want to know $1 million. Figure it out later, essentially, is what joint and severally liable means. So I would be very cautious to do something like that. That's a very risky game you're playing whenever you start doing those things. So anyhow, I will stop there, but thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the problem with being a lawyer is you can't say I'm no lawyer, but but I think it goes to the duty to get started on the cleanup right away. I mean, that is what's necessary to protect citizens, and I think as you mentioned, sort of sorting it out later sort of equalizes, if there's two parties, equalizes apportionment of costs. So, in any event, Chair Rader?
Just a quick comment, and that's part of the issue, because no one's going to right away say, okay, I'm going to give you money. So you want immediate cleanup, I want immediate cleanup. But people have rights. You're not guilty until proven innocent. So if they're denying it, it's going to go to court. And DEP right now has the ability to respond immediately. If they don't, that's another issue. That's not an issue with legislation that's already in place. They can do it. If they choose not to do it, that's, like I said, that's another issue. And not every cleanup is $1 billion company coming in and doing a hazard. I had just one person doing it multiple times in my township. And I think if this would go through, we'd see a lot of very small hazardous areas that would be required to be cleaned up, and the fund can't support that. There's not enough money going into it. So we'd have a great idea that wouldn't be funded, which I don't think is a proper way to do business either.
Okay. Rep. Isaacson?
Thank you. I appreciate the whole discussion we're having here, and I just want to point out that, we do have laws that are already in place. The whole purpose of this is to have immediate action moving forward to protect the people who get damaged. The responsible person definition is not about a person. When in reading it, it's a person who, a person is someone who discharges these substances, including owners, operators, transporters, or anybody liable under this act. The point is to make sure that the cleanup occurs and all of the liability and everything else being discussed will be, that's obviously something that's going to be handled. We live in a litigious society. We know that everyone's going to go after each other, but at the crust of this legislation is to make sure that the people, the individuals who suffer and are denied their right to the clean water, air, and land that is damaged by whatever occurrence happens, that is taken care of immediately, and filling the loophole that exists under the laws that don't force things to be taken care of immediately. That's what's going on. It's not rewriting the existing EPA or DEP laws. It's just trying to make sure that we can take care of the citizens and give them their right to an environmental cleanup quickly. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, those in favor of reporting out House Bill 2178 will vote aye. Those opposed, vote no. Evan, would you take the roll?
Vitale,
Aye.
Brown,
Designation aye.
Fleming,
Designation aye.
Hohenstein,
Designation aye.
Isaacson,
Yes.
Kazim,
Designation aye.
Mazzacco, Otten, Pielli,
Designation aye.
Salisbury,
Designation aye.
Steele,
Designation aye.
Tiburcio,
Designation aye.
Tikak,
Designation aye.
Webster,
Designation aye.
Rader,
No.
Bashline,
Designation no.
Day,
Designation no.
Flick, James? Kephart? Mahaffey? Pugh?
Designation, no.
Stender?
Designation, no.
Twardzik?
No.
Wentling?
No.
Zimmerman?
Okay, the ayes are 14, the nays are no, 12, the nays are 12. Therefore, this bill is reported out to the House floor. That concludes the agenda. Chair Rader, do you have any closing thoughts?
I do not, thank you.
Okay, then this meeting is adjourned.